everyone, to another episode of our newly revised Smart Talk, here just for you to help you celebrate life and all things that are good in this crazy world that we're going through right now with quarantine and COVID and so many other things. But before we get to that, today is Women Empowerment Day. We are celebrating the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and all she did, not just for women, but for all equality. But I've got to introduce my wonderful guest and dear friends. We've got Mark Hayes, founder of Mark Hayes Consulting, former two-time Emmy award-winning news anchor, so you might recognize him.
Emmy nominee.
And
always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
You know, but still, it's a big deal to be nominated. It really is. That's awesome. And Melissa Carter, you're going to recognize her voice because she is the radio show personality here in the Atlanta area on top #1 show hits, and also the podcast founder and host of her very own podcast, She Persisted, which we will talk about today on Women Empowerment Day today. So welcome to the show, everyone.
Never nominated for an Emmy. So let's just say
we're going to get her one. We are going to get her
There's always
one.
tomorrow. There's always tomorrow.
And I want, so because we're talking about RBG, I have my black lace in mourning. Of course, in the past week, we've had services for her and laid her to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, which I do plan to go see her grave someday. Yes. The glasses, the whole thing. I did my RBG look today.
Love the tribute.
In honor of her.
Love the tribute. But we can't forget to introduce our lovely host, Araya McGarry, the founder of Live Your Legacy Summit and the Emmy Award winning, and there it is right over her right shoulder, conveniently placed in the shot for all of us to marvel at.
How did that get there? I
have no idea.
And the live
Araya McGarry, the one and only. The biggest heart in Atlanta.
I love
right. I would agree with that.
Well, we are 3 peas in a pod, media, news, help, good, trying to always find the good in the news, no matter who we've worked for and where we've been. So we've come together to talk and have some good, smart discussion about things that are happening and coming from 3 different walks of life, but having great love and compassion for humanity. And today is no different because today we're going to honor women and women's rights and what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did for us, along with many other people who have tried to really get into the fight of helping all minorities, and I like to talk about the small businesses too, the little guys, the ones that are being overlooked. And I love that we're going to talk about how one person can make a change. And when they're talking about, well, we don't do it that way, or the law says you can't. Really? Well, laws were made by people, and why can't they be changed by people? So let's do this. Let's talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how much she meant to the world and to all of us.
Well, go ahead, Mark. I was just going to say that just briefly, for a lot of people, especially women, if you don't realize the impact she's made on your life or had made on your life and why, there's a reason why there was so much celebration around her and so much social media, hashtags about revolution and wanting to have her legacy continue. Just a few brief things that she did for you, which is before she came along, either as a lawyer or Supreme Court justice, women could not get a bank account without a male cosigner, and she helped change that. State schools did not have to enroll women, and she changed that. And in my case with same-sex marriage, she was one of the biggest proponents and helped with same-sex marriage to be made legal on the federal level. So there's more than that, but those are just some of the things that people don't realize, that she had a hand in the fact that you as a woman could be self-sufficient making money without having to have a man's permission to do it.
And she had the most wonderful marriage too. I know, Mark, we just saw the movie that Melissa told us to watch, On the Basis of Sex. Is that the name of the movie?
On the Basis of Sex.
Everybody needs to see it. Melissa had both me and Mark watch it this week, and we absolutely loved it. It's a great way to just kind of get an idea of what she was all about. But she was very pro-human, very pro everybody's equal, whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're LGBT, black, white, Indian, doesn't matter. We're
13-year-old daughter.
Oh, and the way her daughters watch. Yes. Talk about that, Mark.
Yeah, her daughter was a fireball, but just like her, because in the spirit of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, she found strength in her mother. And really, they kind of played off each other's strength. There was a great scene when there was some cat calls on the corner, and Ruth's daughter said, "Look, Ma, we don't let men talk to us like that." And there was an awakening for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you are empowered, you are liberated, You are
Mhm.
free. And in that spirit, she was able to take on just the almost Cro-Magnon thinking. We have to remember what time of in
Back
our
in the
history it
60s.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
back in the 60s, the
60s,
70s,
70s.
things were
Overall.
archaic then.
Hmm.
Think about how far we've come.
We really,
And
but
I'll never
because of
forget,
people like Ruth.
because of Ruth, right? And I'll
Mhm.
never forget, my dad told me a story where they wanted to get a mortgage for their home that I grew up in, so this was the early 70s. And the every bank that my dad went to told me that my mother's income could not be counted for the mortgage because she was of childbearing age.
Oh,
And that story has
That's
stuck with me.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, how
that really
ridiculous
that's
does
the way it
that
was.
sound?
Yeah.
And so, my dad tells me these stories. My dad was all about awareness.
Yeah.
These are the experiences we dealt with. Here's what's changed. Here's how it's better for you. Don't let anything hold you back.
It's
Right.
funny. I
My
thought you were
dad
going to
always
say
had a
because she
reason.
was a woman. But you went a little further
Yeah,
because she's of childbearing age.
during age,
I've never
yes.
heard that particular
Yes,
phrase.
but it's, men can't have babies. So it's
But you
so
do help.
discriminatory,
I
right?
mean,
Well, and
Well,
that's
but it
and
shows
that's
you
the
that
beauty
was,
of the movie.
but that's
yeah.
what women were expected to, that was their job, was
Right.
to
Mhm.
be a mother, and that,
Right.
a wife and a mother, and
Or a
and
caregiver.
a
Like a
care,
man
right.
couldn't be a caregiver.
That was so
Exactly.
great that she represented a male caregiver. When you think,
Right.
I mean, we know what she did for women now, but it goes into the other side because if you discriminate against one, you're also discriminating against
Right.
men as far as women's roles. I mean, she just shook it all up, like what a man's role is, what a woman role. Like back then, you wouldn't have a man flight attendant. Now we have men
Mhm.
flight attendant, just
Right.
nurses, male nurses. Just think about how it went for both sexes. And
Well,
then
she was
think about-
strategic. She was
Yes.
strategic because in order to, as a lawyer, to defend these men in these capacities so that they could have, what is traditionally female roles, she was very strategic in the fact that she knew those were the cases that were likely to make a difference more so than
Right.
defending a woman in the same position.
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
very trailblazer. And
And can I tell you how we
yes,
benefited here in the city of Atlanta from
please.
Ruth
Absolutely.
Bader Ginsburg and in the media? I mean, I'll throw these three names at you: Monica Kaufman, Brenda Wood,
I
Amanda
love
Davis.
them.
Right?
Mhm.
Think about how long they
I
were
love them.
staples
Me too.
of Atlanta television, all
That's right.
because of the efforts of a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And
Mhm.
think about how many young ladies grew up watching those titans of Atlanta television.
Say their
and
names
then went
again.
on. So Monica Kaufman, Brenda Wood,
Mhm.
and Amanda Davis.
And what about like Jovita Moore and
Jovita
Karen
Moore, who's
Greer?
been on, recently.
Yeah.
Well, and the
they're
people that were able to, yes, the ripple effect of those three iconic women
are
you
the
talked
Jovita
about.
Moores
Mhm.
and
Exactly.
Karen Greers and
Exactly.
Yes.
Sean Gables, and so and myself,
Yeah.
on a morning show,
Mhm.
and a non-traditional role for an see, and I got that job right after 9/11, when there became more of an emphasis on morning news, when people wanted to wake up and know that the world was not going to blow up today,
Right.
or that 3,000
That's
people
interesting.
weren't going to be killed. And so there was this push for morning shows and to be, to have a bigger role in the morning sphere. Because when I started at Good Day Atlanta, I mean, we were going like 6 to 8. Then we went 5:30 to 8, then 5 to 8, then 5 to
Mhm.
9, then 4:30 to 9, then
Now it's
4:30 to
24-hour
10, then
news
4:30 to 11,
That's
and
right.
now it's, it's off the chain.
24/7.
So, but it's all because of, the ability to shake up, those archaic ideas of
Mhm.
only a woman can do this and only a man can do. I mean,
Right.
they even threw the teachers example out there.
Right.
Well, women are expected to be teachers. What?
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
come on.
Well, yeah. Well, the other thing that I think is very important in her legacy for people to understand is her persistence, is her not giving up. So I think a lot of people see what we're going through today, and I've talked to friends who were just completely ready to give up. They're completely just disheartened by everything that's going on. And it's like, but you have to look at people like the reason they're heroes is because they faced it head front and continue to fight and fight and fight. Because Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and you'll see this in the movie if you don't know this already, she had a wonderful husband who battled cancer young while they were in law school. And so not
school.
only did she do her own studies, she went to his classes and took notes for him and helped him graduate.
And
So
she still was first in her class. I mean, she
And
didn't
she-
barely
exactly.
make it.
She was the
Right.
first in her
Mhm.
class after doing all that and still couldn't get a job when she graduated, first in her class in law school. But
Mhm.
did that defeat her? No, she kept going and kept going. And and to me, that's the key. You have to know your purpose. And if you know your purpose and what you want to do, then you'll persevere.
And something that made a mark in my mind too when I was watching the movie, that this was back in the 60s and 70s, when sometimes the world isn't quite ready for you and your cause. So it was like 10 years before she started really, what she did for 10 years working in different, she was a professor and teacher, but she hadn't found her stride. She hadn't really become that full-time lawyer. That Supreme Court justice was until 1993. So don't give up, because the world or your community may not be ready for something you're trying to do. Stick with it, but don't be so impatient that you have to break down doors the wrong way. She just kept with it. But if we look back at all those times when she was, quietly, she had her right education, she had everything going for her, but she wasn't in the right spot yet. Her time did
yes.
come.
And I think you have to know who you are. So there are some people that do want to break a door down with their boot. And then there's others who can silently do it. And I think there's a place for everybody
That's
in that
true.
capacity.
That's
But I think you're exactly right. Again, if you
Don't
believe
get
in yourself,
discouraged.
if you believe in your cause, it won't matter what other people say about you. But it kind of goes to what we talked about last week, is you've got to get out of the mindset of worrying about what everybody else thinks, because you will easily be defeated that way. And that's not who she was.
Mm-mm. And I think this day and age, we're much more. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
That women's rights project that she started with the ACLU was groundbreaking. I mean, it was, it made the difference in the quality of life, not only for women, but for families. And so what she did was not just a selfish pursuit. It wasn't about, just being turned away. It was about the betterment of humankind, which is what makes her so special. And, and even now, as we're dealing with the Breonna Taylor situation, LeBron James had some poignant comments, last night. Black women are still fighting, for their equality, for their place in the sun. And, we have this situation in Kentucky now that's pulling out all kinds of emotions in all different, ways that we can't even possibly imagine, especially as men. But there is value in each and every one of us. And that was, the underlying driving force behind Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Even with the law students that she taught, she's like, you can change the world. She's like, I want to teach you to change the world because you can.
And that's what I meant. I didn't mean to be quiet, but while she was doing her teaching job, she was trying to teach that next generation, but knowing that her time was going to come. And I think now, more than back then, the world is more open to the kicking down of the door. It's not such a, oh my gosh, how dare you? We really know that you can really dare to do anything these days. You can dare to peacefully protest. You can dare to walk on stairs and be there when back then it was oh my gosh, you almost got put in jail for doing, standing up for yourself. Now we really are more open to, you go for it. You tear down that door, but I don't want people to get discouraged. If it doesn't come down, keep doing it. Keep trying it. Be respectful. Be great at what you do. Have integrity. And I just want to say that one quote I really loved from Ruth Bader, that I saw, was something I think really holds true. And her mother, like all of our moms, was a very big influencer of her life. And her mother said to her, she goes, my mother told me to be a lady. Now, remember, this was back in the day. You might think lady is something else. She said, my mother told me to be a lady. And for her, that meant be your own person and be independent. Did not be,
and that's revolutionary.
Yeah,
that's revolutionary from back in that time.
It really was. Didn't mean being barefoot and pregnant. It meant being your own person and being independent. And boy, was she.
And she was a valedictorian of her high school class too. So she wasn't just the top of her, law school. And the thing is, she never got to give that valedictory speech because her mother passed away. I think they buried her mother the day before she graduated high school.
Yes, the day before she passed away.
So she didn't give that valedictory speech. But yeah, it's
all right. You made many after that. It was okay.
Yeah.
Made up for it.
Exactly. And she was who her mother wanted her to be.
Yeah.
It really was.
I love her quote that said, real change, enduring change happens one step at a time. And, you know, and even when and because remember, while she was waging this war, there was also the civil rights struggle that was going on too. And she saw,
She did.
you know, the equal kinds of resistance, you know, that they were fighting. They were both similar battles, you know, but, and she did not shy away from them. And that's what I love most about her, was that no matter what they threw at her, whether it was the mock trial or whether it was in front of the Supreme Court, wherever she went, she stood tall. And she did it with her husband's blessing. And to me, the silver lining in that entire movie, On the Basis of Sex, was that incredible relationship between
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I got too. I love the wonderful storybook. No, it wasn't. She said, her quote was, "He was the only man I knew that loved me for having a brain as well." And I thought that was so good. 56 years of marriage, and he loved everything about her and was right there to put her up on.
And she accepted that. She accepted
Yes.
that. Now, that's the other thing, is women need to understand that you are of value. And if you're in a relationship that is not like that, you don't have to stay. I really,
on that, yeah.
I get frustrated that the women still, you know, even though it's 2020, and even though we know that we're independent, we can do whatever, you know, we have the ability to do whatever it is we want to do. We have that freedom. There is a insecurity in a lot of women that they don't give themselves permission for that. And they feel, you know, and they may be getting some terrible advice from parents. They may be getting terrible advice from family and friends, and, you know, to be that old fashioned woman who's just the good wife and the good mother and don't have your say. But the thing is, women, you can give yourself permission to do and be with whoever, whatever you want. And women have to take that opportunity to do that for themselves.
Melissa, you made a point back in a couple episodes earlier, and if viewers haven't watched that, go back and watch a couple episodes earlier, because you made a good point about a plug there. No, that we're in this quarantine, and some people are happy by being home with their families, and others aren't. And women are in a dangerous situation. You know, I'm a big advocate for domestic violence because I've escaped domestic violence. I'm a big supporter of the I'm Still Standing Alliance with Tamika Lowry Pugh about helping women be safe. But it all comes down to something you just said, Melissa. It's choices. And we have to look back and say, I've chose this person, I've chose this spouse. And I know I made a wrong choice my first time around, because my choice was, oh, he'll get nice once we get married. He'll trust me once we get married. And I look back and say, no, that wasn't the smartest thing to do. So women and men, please choose wisely now. Somebody that respects you now, somebody that you see your future with, and you uplift each other now. And we can choose not to marry or not to be in a relationship that is not good for either or, and it's not uplifting. It's not going to be perfect, and yeah, you're going to argue. That's all great, but not something that's degrading, where your opinion doesn't matter and you're called stupid or ridiculous for having an opinion or a difference of opinion.
Right.
That all needs to be uplifted. And I just love that with Ruth and her husband, how he never questioned her law, and she never questioned his cooking. I mean, those are two. I just love that. And those are two things you wouldn't think one was the wife's and one was the husband's, but they switched it, and it was so great. It was so great. So
that's one of my favorite facts about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is that she was a New York foodie. She is so Brooklyn, which I love about her. And she is so Brooklyn. She loves Italian, and there is a little restaurant on the Lower East Side of Manhattan that she loves, and I'll drop a link to it in the chat. But I can't wait to go there.
What is it?
When I go back to New York. It's a small little deli, and I found it, you know, it was just obscure facts about RBG, because after the movie, I was so moved by her. I just wanted to know more.
I did too. I was reading.
Yes.
I was reading.
No, I'm so proud of you, Aurelia.
That is awesome. One step at a time.
I know, right?
But, you know, I think what we forgot to mention, Melissa, while Ruth and her husband Martin were going through that cancer battle, they were also raising a child.
Right.
Yes.
With no cell phones, with no nannies, without all the creature comforts of 2020.
Great point.
And they had so many opportunities to quit. And I don't want to
Yeah.
spoil the movie for you folks because I really want you guys to
Got
watch
to
it
watch if you haven't.
and be able to absorb the monumental hurdles that they overcame. But there were so many chances for her to just opt out and say, you know what, I give up.
And there's so a chance for him to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they kept, and I love that they kept going to him for the answers, for the, no, I've asked you. And he kept referring, no, I want to go to my co-counsel. Or he kept allowing her to take the spotlight, which he knew she was better at.
And
So
remember why that happened, because they were able to talk about that and have a resolution, right? They talked about, hey, I'm tired of the little pats on the head, and oh yeah, she must be a great lawyer too. But Martin, no, she's got her own brain, her own skill, her own amazing talent. Ask her.
Right. He really helped the movement.
And he supported her, and he supported her, and to the amazement of the other men in the room. You know, the other men in the room would look around like, whoa.
Because it's authentic. Like they showed an authentic relationship regardless of gender. It was like Araya said, it's a true friendship. And one other thing that struck me, not about the movie, but about her service at the Capitol, you know, here in the past few days, was that one of the news anchors said, you know, she is going to be somebody that in 200 years people will remember. And he was explaining that, think about it, in this age of everybody wanting to be a superstar, very few people make 100, 200, 300 years in the future to be part of history. And he was saying she will be that person, because I find that with her and with the other people that we have, you know, great people that we have lost, both leaders and, like you said, Breonna Taylor's, and, you know, people who are part of our community that should still be here. But, you know, one of the things that I think about when, you know, we, in the middle of where we are, in the middle of our own history, our own lives, we sometimes don't recognize the icons that are in front of us. And so that's one thing, you know, for those who think, well, what is the big deal about this woman? Like, or if people try to make it political and say, oh, well, the Democrats are just trying to make this a big, no, it's that she truly is an icon that, like that reporter said, will be known 200 years from now, where most of us won't be.
Right. It's more than just a 15 minutes of fame. It's
exactly.
And the question is,
for the better for everybody.
And the question is for us as a society is, how do we replace that?
Yeah.
Right. You can put another woman there, right?
Right.
But you can't put that kind of tenacity, that kind of passion, that kind of relentless pursuit for justice for all.
And it's funny,
and that's what's going to be missing, because
exactly. And
because to me, as a Howard University man and Thurgood Marshall, having moved on and being replaced, his legacy has not been fulfilled by the justice that sits in his seat.
I don't think anybody is replaceable. I think there's always somebody different, you know, that will have a different legacy to live. And that's great. And it's funny, you guys, I'm not, you know me, I love positive and uplifting, and I surround myself in the world of as much inspiration and helping nonprofits and things. So I'm not as read up on politics as I don't want to be, because it's such an angry place and nobody says the truth. And just, so when you said, and I found out she was a Democrat.
People are lying.
I know. I'm more independent, because everybody is just always disappoints me in those worlds. But when you said she was a Democrat, I didn't even know. See, that didn't even matter to me. She was a woman who, and I didn't, oh, she's Democrat, I can't watch that movie, or, oh, I can't be for her. I am totally for her. It didn't matter, but I didn't even know. And I kind of wish the world had that more. We don't know if you're red or blue, but it's not.
Now the thing,
but she was great, and I don't care what red or blue you are. She was a wonderful woman who did great things for humanity.
Right. Now, if you have never had the privilege of being around lawyers, because I know a lot of them get judged.
Well, I have. My dad was one, and so was my father-in-law was a judge.
Yes.
I sleep with one every night.
Yeah, exactly. So I have the privilege of knowing and having important people in my life be lawyers. And, you know, one of the things, you know, that's the beauty of the Supreme Court, and that's the beauty of the legal system is, you know, those politics are flushed aside. So like your Supreme Court justices do not have an R or a D or an I in front of them. Like they have a reputation of being conservative. Right. They're not supposed to. They have a reputation of being conservative. They may have a reputation of being liberal. But the thing is, true lawyers, including Ginsburg, including all of them, you know, even if you don't agree with them, true lawyers are trained to see both sides. True
Right.
lawyers are trained to be able to argue both points, even if they agree with it in their heart or not. So they're given that opportunity that once they reach the Supreme Court, all of these people are brilliant people, and whoever replaces her will be a brilliant person who has the capacity to see all sides of an issue. So I do think that people have also politicized the Supreme Court, which I think is unfortunate.
I think she'll be
Right.
proud and happy to know that I didn't know. With even watching the movie, I didn't really know if she was Democrat. It's not the issue. The issue.
Well,
like
she
you
should.
said-
Yeah, I say that. I should not have probably said that, because the thing is, as a Supreme Court justice, she was neither. So.
Right.
Oh yeah, but I get it. I
Right.
mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But even like in their walk of life or who they vote for, whatever, it wasn't the issue. It wasn't that
Well-
you have to be Democrat to like this person or this judge. I hate when it gets all divisive. But she was a great human being, as there are on both sides. There's good people in there. You know, I just
Well,
have a
I
hard
do-
time finding anybody.
I want to bring up one more thing from her service at the Capitol, that I think it was really actually when she arrived at the Supreme Court. But it's one of those inspirational things, you know, Araya talks about trying to inspire people. And one of the inspirational pictures that I found just really moving, that I plan on keeping that picture for the rest of my life, is the picture of all her clerks that stood at the steps of the or at the Supreme Court, awaiting her body to arrive. And to me, think about it. She was their boss. These people worked for her. There was over 100 of them there, all dressed in black, ready to accept her. And the thing is, they were there out of respect. And it was such an incredible picture to me, that how many bosses
Really
can
is.
say when they die, that many employees are going to just come and make sure that they stand with the coffin. I don't know how many bosses can say that. And so I just,
That's
An
it's
amazing
not,
picture.
yes, it's
Really
not-
great point, Melissa.
it goes back to what you said about how she not only helped change laws and help people and be equal, but she lived that in her office with these people that
Mhm.
were, you know, training underneath her. And, you know, I mean, it just, to me, it's like that is something in itself that is very rare to see,
Mhm.
all those clerks standing out there.
And I encourage our viewers, if you're watching this, and if you know somebody that's like that, put them in the comments. Let us know. We want to celebrate people that are great. I mean, yes, Ruth is somebody we all will know and will never forget, and she will make a global world impact. But there's people that you all know. You may even be somebody that tries to live that life and be good to everybody that works with you or for you. Because I know I always believe there's more good people in the world than bad, than divisive, than hateful. I just know the world is a better place. And Mark, you and I were talking about the news. We want to give more news spotlight to those good people because they're plentiful. So I want to pour this into our viewers now to give you hope that this can be you. You can choose to make a difference, even if it's just in your community. That makes a difference. If you change one
Absolutely.
person or inspire one
Mhm.
person, that's worth it. That's just as impactful to the scheme of eternity as somebody that was put on this earth to change the world or change
Right.
thousands. You're just as important. Your work is just as vital and just as magnificent. So go out there. Let us know about people, you know, men or women or kids or anyone who's making a difference. You know me, I love to know about nonprofits that are helping because I want to give back to them. But Melissa, you're doing something that's wonderful. I want all of our viewers to know about. You have a podcast. This just kind of works in with this conversation. So it's a perfect time for me to let our viewers really know that you have a podcast called She Persisted. And would you tell us just a little bit about what that is and who you have on your show? And maybe some of the viewers might be a good fit to be a guest.
Absolutely. So so it's called She Persisted. You can find it on Apple Podcasts now. It's called.
We'll
It's
put
not
the
called
link in.
iTunes anymore.
Not
It's Apple
iTunes anymore, yeah.
exactly. It's Apple Podcasts. And it's easier to She Persisted show if you're going to, you know, search for it, you know, at any time. That's the easier way to do it, because She Persisted obviously is a very famous quote. But it is a podcast that's geared toward women, and it's a conversation about women, and it's just your daily lives and things that are going on a daily basis. It's really kind of a free form thinking conversation, and you don't have to be a celebrity to be a guest on it. I have women of every walks of life that are a guest on it.
I've been on it.
Ray has been on it. Mark, you can come on it if you want
Come
to.
on,
Ask Melissa Carter at gmail.com is the email address, where if you want to be a guest or know somebody, again, ask Melissa Carter, gmail.com,
that in.
Melissa, 1L, 2 S's. But it is, like I said, a conversation where I think that women, again, don't feel either celebrated within themselves or by other people, just in the mundane task of life.
Mhm.
And so we talk about anything, from just, equal pay, down to how you're getting through this pandemic, down to me making mistakes on Zoom calls with my son's kindergarten class. I mean,
There you go.
it's just
Everything.
it's a conversation about women, among women, about women.
It really
So,
is. It's great. I
it's a
love being
privilege
on the
to do
show.
it.
I love being on it. I love listening to it. It's so worth your time. It's an extension of our viewers. Like this show will love that. And I know they love a
Well, thank
podcast that
you.
they can listen to in the car. And I think when I was on, I was talking about your story and your legacy and overcoming your obstacles,
Mhm.
because we all have obstacles. Don't let them stop you. Let them be your reason and your stepping stone to get what you want to get done. And Mark, you were saying, because Mark has this wonderful business of Mark Hayes Consulting that helps people get in the media. And Mark, I want you to talk for a second about how women don't think that they can get in the media or deserve to be shown for their story or their business. So tell us a little bit about that.
And that's the one thing I would really push, especially women entrepreneurs, is not to be afraid to tell your story, because the people that are having the biggest and most wins are the ones who are out there saying, you know what, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how I can help you, and here's why I do it. Here's the passion behind my story. And if you tell that story, it's not shameless self-promotion. It's an opportunity to connect with that ideal customer, or it's an opportunity to motivate that young lady who I just had this conversation with a client on Wednesday. And I said, Leticia Hutchins is her name. And I said, Leticia, you really need to start doing more public speaking. You need to look for opportunities to create content. I said, because there's another little Letty out there waiting to hear your inspiring words, or watching you do what you do and saying, you know what Letty is doing, so can I.
Amen.
And I said, and therein lies the secret beauty of who you are. And this young lady has, a partner in a multi-million-dollar coffee company with her dad. She was an accountant by trade, working at one of the big four, gave it up to be an entrepreneur. Her story is so motivating and so moving. I'm like, you've got to share your story.
Share it. Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And she looked at me and she just kind of smiled and she was like, well, I know. And I said, no. We have to share your story.
Absolutely. It's funny, you don't have to tell men that, Mark. You have to tell women that.
You want to know my I think I've shared this theory with Araya, but I don't know if I've shared this theory with Mark. So Mark, the reason I think it's so hard for women is because we're not trained to do that.
Right.
So we're trained.
I agree.
Yes, we're trained to wait on the guy to ask us out. We're trained to wait on the guy to call us. We're trained to wait for the guy to ask us to marry him. We're trained to just wait and wait and wait and wait. And then all of a sudden we're thrust into adulthood and told, okay, now do your thing. Go out there, be aggressive. And it's like, that's not, you've given us too many signals. It's like women.
Can I tell you a funny story?
Yes, absolutely.
No, you're not allowed to. Forget it.
Going back to the early 90s when my wife and we had gone to college together, we were getting ready to get married. And I was leaving her house out in Queens one day, and she says to me, well, let me know what we're going to do because you call the shots. But she was only kidding.
Right.
Yeah, she was.
So all these years later, we were living in Michigan, and she was in court, and she had come home that day, and she just was dying to tell me something. I was like, what's going on? What happened today at work? And so there was a defendant in the courtroom. She was working for the county at the time, Washington County up near Ann Arbor. And the guy says, well, Satan over here wants to put me under the jail. And my wife wore it like a badge of honor because, there she was. She wasn't afraid to back down to the, man attorney and defend it. Here she was stating her case forcefully without malice. I mean, she didn't know this guy from any other defendant. But immediately this guy, tagged her as Satan.
Yeah.
Because she was upholding the law.
Because he thought it could work. He thought it would work to intimidate.
Exactly.
And it goes back.
And
Mark,
it didn't.
No, of course not.
Atta girl.
Mark, it reminds me of something when I teach in sales. I've taught sales teams and everything. And women, when you believe in what you're offering your customer or your client, that's when you get more bold. When you're not thinking, oh, I've got to sell something. I've got to sell this. She truly believes in the service and what she's doing and who she's serving. So yeah, that's going to brush off her. And I encourage all women to, when you're getting with somebody like Mark that can get you in the media, or you think about, should I be on the podcast? She persisted. Don't think about it as a selfish way. Who am I to do it? Think about who you're serving and needs to hear about your product or your service, because you wouldn't be doing it unless you had a real passion that it helps somebody. So you're not selling arsenic that's going to kill someone. You're selling something that obviously solves a pain and is useful. So don't be shy. Think about how you would promote that if it was your daughter selling it or doing this. You'd be all over helping people know about them.
And I think you also,
if they don't know you,
think about your children. I mean, like, I have a son, I don't have a daughter, but I can tell you that when he's older and we talk about dating, we talk about women and all those things, it's not going to be a case where he's going to have to be the guy who does everything. Like, I hope that by the time he's dating, girls will be calling our house and girls will be asking him out. Like, you've got to encourage your daughters to be bold and to speak their story. And if you're wondering, well, why in history class do we only hear about straight white men? Well, it's because guess what? Straight white men has put their stories out there. History,
they wrote
history is who writes it.
Right.
And so if you don't tell your stories, ladies, women will not be in the history books.
And you know, it's funny too. I was at a friend's house listening to him talk about some woman at some job, you know, some woman all emotional making some decision that women make. And I was kind of like, wow, this was 2017. I'll never forget it. This was 2017. I'm like, oh my gosh.
And it's okay to be emotional. I'm very emotional. And
so am I.
I am so emotional. I have a thin
But you know
skin.
what? I grew up with my dad making breakfast for us in the mornings before we went to school.
My husband does laundry and dishes.
Yeah, and I mean, my dad folded clothes, he did laundry, he took care of the yard. I mean, my dad just did whatever was needed to be done. But it wasn't about these, you know, these roles that had to be, you know, assigned, right? It wasn't like, you know, your mom has to, you know, my dad took me to the doctor as much as my mom did.
And there was a male doctor and a female doctor, just as much.
Right. You say that, but I will say, you know, because everybody belongs and everybody's important. Because my opinion is, if you're alive, that means you're meant to be here, regardless of what your opinions are, who you are. But I do think that you have to realize there are still a lot of those traditions passed down in families. And I know people younger than me that still have those traditional roles and the thought I have is
away from it.
Yeah. And the thought I have is that woman's going to regret this. They'll be divorced in 10 years. And she's going to wonder where those years of her life went because she wasn't living her authentic self. There's some women that are phenomenal homemakers, and that is their passion. That's what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Because they're happy. But I'm talking about the women who are taught to do that
just because
it's not their passion. It's not what they want to do.
And you know, Melissa, we talk about our mom's influence a lot. And my mom told me something that I did not listen to the first time, but I did the second time. And I'll be celebrating, I'll tell you what it is in a second, but I'll be celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary in 2021 because I listened to her. We need to listen to our wise moms. And she told me something I'm going to tell everybody that's listening. And it goes right into this. She said, marry your best friend.
There you go.
So many of us women, we marry that guy that's a jerk to us or whatever. That's not okay. It's okay to not just have the best friend be your buddy. That best friend can be the person you fall in love with. Because Brian is right now probably doing dishes, folding laundry. He does whatever it takes. We're a team. We're in business together. You don't have to be to get along. But I was a dating matchmaker for a huge dating organization. And one thing I tried to get men and women and the people that wanted to date to see was to overlook all the stereotypes. And if you have things in common, get to know each other, go out with each other, because those things last long term. If you're an outdoor advocate, you're gonna, love that forever together. You can't be like complete opposites forever and ever. You can't hate everything about the other person, because then, that's gonna be a little more difficult. But you said marry your best friend. And that didn't mean, now you do this and you do that. It's like, you need this done, great, I'll help you. You need this, I'll help you. We just do because we like each other as well as love each other.
It's interesting, kind of piggybacking on that. I was at the NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists convention years ago in Chicago, and Paula Walker Madison was a general manager, Black female, of WNBC in New York at the time. Mm-hmm. And she spoke, and you could hear a pin drop in that room because people were so riveted on that achievement alone. But then she said something that has stuck with me all these years later. And that was probably mid 90s. And she says to the room, packed house, don't ever underestimate the power of having a strong woman in love with you.
Oh.
And I thought, wow, that is so profound, because she was so appreciative of her husband, for allowing her, that's a thankless job, general manager of a TV station. You work round the clock, you're responsible for every aspect of the operation, right? And if the operation is not working, you're the one who takes the fall.
Wow.
And so it is a tough job, much less the ascent to get there.
Oh,
And how incredibly difficult that must have been in the 70s, 80s, and 90s when she was cutting her teeth. So, for her to realize and to remind us, as you're developing your career and as your career is moving forward, don't forget, the person who supports you, the Martin Ginsburg in your life,
exactly.
the Ruth Bader in your life.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and it's amazing. I've asked my wife to do so much throughout chasing that television dream. My wife did law school in 2.5 years with 2 kids. And
Still.
it's just like, that's why I don't win any arguments anymore. I don't even try.
Well, you wouldn't win them anyway,
I wouldn't
Mark.
win them anyway, right?
Anyway, let's just be clear.
She's just practicing on me, right? She's just funning with me. But,
Yeah, you thought you were going to win. Sorry.
Yeah, but I had to look back and say, you know what? She's making incredible sacrifices, while I go out here and chase this dream. And sometimes
That's what it's all
you just
about.
have to stop and say, look, what do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do? Which job do you want to where is your dream gig? And and she couldn't be happier than where she is now. She works for the federal government at HHS. And she lights up. When I see her, like, at the kitchen table with 3 different computers open and a monitor and a file this high of cases, she is in her element. It is her jam. And
awesome.
That makes me happy.
And
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think that, we talked about my
competition.
mom last week, and Millie Pete was one of my heroes. But one of the things that I was inspired was by her inability to chase her dreams. She sacrificed for my father, who was one of her best friends. They had a 51-year marriage. I mean, and there's a picture that hangs in my house of them holding hands as older people. So it's like, if you can still hold hands after 50 years of marriage, you're true friends. And but it was just their roles back in the day. Like, I was born late, so they're like of the greatest generation. So Dad's job took precedent, and she had to move and move and move and move. And he was in the military, and she had to move and move and move. And so just watching her story was also an inspiration for me, because I don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me, and I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg had the same feeling about her mother, which is, I'm going to live my life, and a life that my mother wishes she could have lived. Yeah. And that's kind of my inspiration too, is I want to live a life that Millie Pete could have lived. And then, wherever she is, she can live vicariously through me.
And if every generation, does that, each generation will be better and better.
Absolutely.
Because we all get a little further and further.
I want my son to have more opportunities than me. And I want my son, if my son ends up being straight, and if he decides to get married, I want his wife to have a far better life than I ever could have. That's what evolution's about.
And we all want that for all of our kids, for sure. And one thing, we'll wrap it up. I know the 3 of us could talk about this forever, but we will, because we're weekly every Wednesdays at noon. So come back for more conversation, for sure, because we do have opinions, and we want to pour into you all wisdom and some things to chew on, some things to take home with you. And one thing I'm getting from this whole conversation is, if you do what you love, you'll never work another day in your life.
Right.
And adding to that, if you allow your partner to do that as well, then you both will be happier at home. You'll both have better days. You'll both be better parents, less stress. Now, yes, there's always stress and there's always conflict, but if you're doing what you love and not stuck in a role that you don't need to be there, you're doing something that you hate, do whatever you can. Reach out. That's why I love coaches. And, I have my coaching, Profit from Being You, because I want you to be able to profit from who you are, what you do, what makes you so wonderful, not just at your business, but as a human being. You have special sauces in you that people need to have in their life. So we're all talking about your podcast and your media company. Mine's the new Facebook group, Profit from Being You. Look me up. We want to pour into you courage to be who you need to be. And if you're doing something you hate, we want to help give you that limb to reach out and start something that you do love. And it's never too late, and you're never too young, because these students now, homeschool and everything, might be hating school even more than maybe normal if they're not a school lover, but they could be doing something else on the side. We talked about last week on our episode about letting them do some hobbies and interests that they love that may have nothing to do with school.
Well,
It's funny you say
remember,
that. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I remember Colonel Sanders didn't make his first million until he was like 65 with
That's
the whole
right.
chicken thing.
I love that. Yes.
And so I was going to say on in Facebook, here, She Persisted Show, you can look that up. We have a Facebook page.
We're gonna put all the links in. We're gonna help you guys.
I try to post, inspirational stories of women that never make it to the podcast, just as resources on that feed.
Right.
And one of them is that there's a woman who started her own sauce company. I think she was 90 something years old, because her daughter asked her, do you have any regrets in life? And she said, I've never made my own money. And so her daughter helped her start a company in which now she is making her own money and 4 years into it. So it is never too late.
You
ever.
put that link in. I want to know who she is. I want to support people like that.
And the name of that restaurant that Ruth Bader
Yeah.
Ginsburg loves on the Lower East Side up in Manhattan is called Russ and Daughters.
Russ
and Daughters.
And she loved the poppy seed bagels.
Ooh, yes. Good taste. Good taste.
Good thing they didn't do a drug test there at the Supreme Court. In case you don't know, poppy seeds can cause you to test positive for drugs. If you didn't get the joke.
The poppy seed,
Yes.
Well, on that note, since we're laughing, let's go on to our not so smart moment of the week. Because I always like to end on a real fun high note, just to let you have some time to laugh. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. We'll be back for more every week for sure. And if you have a topic or subject you want us to talk about and banter about and dig in and give us some smart insight about, let us know. Write us, email us, or just put a comment here wherever you're watching this show on, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Gosh, social media goes on forever. And I just found out there's a new social media app that's going to be there, like to help TikTokers in case TikTok falls. So I don't know, they just never stop creating new ones. So anyway, so wherever you're watching this, just write a comment, we'll see it. Anyway, let's start with the not so smart. Drum roll. Let's start with you, Mark.
All right, let's go to Albuquerque, New Mexico for this.
Why not?
Let's do it.
And the wind blows hard in Albuquerque. If you've ever been there, beautiful country, but the wind can get out of hand.
Okay.
Especially when you don't tie your porta potty down on your vehicle. So we've got a runaway porta potty out there on Highway 66, Route 66 in Albuquerque. Of course,
What's the newscaster? Always a newscaster. I love that.
Porta potty falls off the truck, and then someone, of course, takes their creative genius and makes it a virtual porta potty sprinting down the highway. Yes, it's not exactly a real video, but it's so 2020, right?
Oh, yeah.
In 2020, you expect to see a porta potty streaking by you on the highway,
Yeah, you
and
do.
hitting it with the horn and giving it the finger of love. Or
right.
direction.
You're number one. You are number one, porta potty. You are. Don't let anybody else tell you.
Runaway porta potty. Whoever tied it down was not so smart.
Not so
My
smart.
God, Mark. I just love it. It's like News at 11 on I-85.
The traffic reporter. That is a traffic reporter's dream. I'm
Oh,
telling
no
you.
doubt.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, the Crash Clarks love that stuff.
Here in Atlanta, we had that zebra evidence that fell off the truck, and there was a zebra in the middle of I-85, and that's
Didn't you have
actually
a tiger too?
well, they had a lion, and tiger, and a bear. But
Yeah.
evidence was a zebra that fell off the truck. That's the show I did that won the Emmy, so that's why I know that story so well. But imagine driving down the interstate and there's a zebra there, almost as good as seeing a toilet there.
I know.
And they're big too. Those zebras.
Oh,
They're not
yeah.
small.
Oh yeah,
And
no,
It's
they
not
were,
like you're going to corral him.
Right. Can't miss them, though. That's a good thing.
yeah,
So,
no kidding. Oh my gosh. All right, Melissa, go for
All right.
yours.
we're heading to Detroit, Michigan.
Why
Yeah.
not?
And where some firefighters in Detroit received a 911 call of an unconscious woman. So they came, this 20-year-old woman, and they tried to resuscitate her, but unfortunately, they said they couldn't, and so they pronounced her dead. Somebody at the scene, a family member, said, I think I see her breathing. And the firefighters tried again, and they said, well, we don't have any response. This happened a couple more times, and then they finally said, I'm sorry, the woman has passed. And so they delivered her body to, once it was, to the funeral home for it to be prepared. And it was in a bag. And so when the funeral director was able to get to the bag and open up the bag, because he too thought he saw breathing in the bag.
Oh my goodness.
He was awake, her eyes open and breathing.
No,
as he unzipped
come
the bag.
on.
That's like a
Oh.
movie.
True story. She was sent to the hospital. She was put in ICU because there were reasons why she was unconscious at the time, but she is very much alive.
Oh my,
Oh,
that is like
my
a
goodness.
nightmare.
All right, so we've got several issues
Imagine
here.
waking up in a body
Yeah.
bag.
So it's really,
Imagine being the funeral home director and seeing the bag moving.
I know, right? I mean, and that's,
quit.
yes, it's a
quit.
joke. It's a joke that people, that funeral director probably had a lot of people say, did you ever find a body? And he's like, oh no, that's just,
No, yeah,
now
that's
we
just a
can say,
myth.
yeah,
I
now.
watch a
But-
show.
Yeah, but unfortunately, and I love firefighters, but they weren't so smart in this situation because they're the ones that
Oh,
pronounced her
Yeah,
dead.
that's not so smart.
Not so smart. Oh my God. Well, that's great. Well, okay. On that note, mine's a little lighter.
Shivers.
Yeah, no. Gosh, I still think the body bag.
You're welcome for the nightmares.
Need
No,
a
I'm just
Willy's,
kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, we are heading into Halloween season. Thank
I'm
you.
gonna
Melissa.
sleep well tonight.
I know, right? Sorry.
Oh, Ryan Murphy has nothing over you.
Oh,
All right, well, my nice little lighthearted one. I don't know where this was. Y'all know your cities. I don't know what city this was in, but it was in a craft store. And this woman wrote, she goes, I worked in a craft store when we were going through the aisles cleaning up. We were supposed to grab any damaged items and put them in a specific bin. At the end of the night, the manager would quickly go through it. One night, she dug through the pile that was supposed to be damaged goods and took out a wooden F. Who put this in here? She said. The woman said, I did. I told her it's supposed to be an E, but it's missing a prong. Okay. The manager quickly informed her, I'm sorry, lady, that is an F.
You know what?
so explain the merchandise.
I have just found a new way to explain letters to my son.
Perfect.
Nice. Yes.
That F is
An F is simply an
With
E.
no
Missing
bottom.
an F is simply an E missing a prong.
wow.
This E is broken.
Honey. Now this is, look, I know you guys are from the Northeast, but this is where you say, bless her heart.
Bless her little heart.
Bless her heart.
Yeah.
Bless
Bless her heart.
Whereas-
We gotta do a
and
show
now
on
Back
Bless
to
Your Heart.
school.
I
Well,
thought
if-
that was
if-
a compliment for the longest time. I didn't know.
Yeah. So, yeah. And you're speaking of, again, Millie Pete, she would say, bless her sweet little heart when she's really saying this woman is
so,
an idiot.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, we'll let you live her legacy on then, Melissa. So since Melissa said that, that's not a good thing if you ever hear her say that to you.
That's
So the
right,
more
that's
sugar
right.
you put on it, the worse it is.
The
Okay.
more words you put in it, the more she's trying to tell you, oh,
Oh, God.
just walk away.
God bless Millie Pete.
Oh my gosh. On that note, stay in school like we always say every week. It seems to be the not so smart theme, stay in school. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much for such a
Thank
great
you.
conversation. Girl power, human being power, love more, give back more, and find the good in everything. But Mark and Melissa and I want to just encourage you, don't ever give up. Whatever you're trying to do right now, don't give up. Reach
Push
out
it.
to whoever you need to reach out to. Find the good, find good news, and make your legacy count because we're here to help you do it. We love y'all. Have a great rest of your day or evening. Bye from all of us here at Smart Talk. Bye, Melissa. Bye, Mark. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
See you next time. Tune in.